The bourbon burns in my throat, a sensation both foreign and strangely clarifying. Mere moments have passed since Colonel Mackenzie Clarkson presented me with an impossible choice: return to an imperium that had sentenced me to death, or help transform it alongside these chaos-embracing humans. The Duncan brothers, Swamp and Pockets, continue their equipment maintenance in companionable silence, seemingly unconcerned with my existential crisis. Their casual confidence is almost offensive to a civilization that values careful deliberation above all else. And yet, I find myself drawn to it. "I want order," I announce finally. Clarkson raises an eyebrow. "That's not surprising, Director. Your entire civilization is built on—" "You misunderstand," I interrupt, surprising myself with the breach of protocol. "I want order restored. I want the war with humans ended. I want this rebellion resolved before it tears the Imperium apart." A smile spreads across Clarkson's face. "So you'll help us?" "Yes," I say, the word hanging in the recycled air of the transport ship. "But I need to understand what I'm involving myself in, the scope of this liberation movement, its capabilities, its relationship with your Texas Knights." Clarkson exchanges glances with the Duncan brothers. Swamp nods almost imperceptibly, while Pockets continues reassembling his quantum sword. Though I notice his movements have slowed, his attention clearly on our conversation. "Fair enough," Clarkson says, refilling my glass. "You deserve to know what you're getting into." She activates a holographic display in the center of the common area. It shows a map of Sheneth territory, with clusters of light scattered throughout. Some small, others surprisingly large. Each light represents a system or installation where the liberation movement has established a presence, she explains. Red indicates complete control, yellow means contested, blue means covert cells only. I stare at the display with growing disbelief. Nearly a third of the Imperium shows some level of activity, with several major military production facilities glowing an alarming red. "This is impossible," I whisper. "High Command would have detected an operation of this scale." "High Command sees what it expects to see," Pockets comments without looking up from his work. "When your entire system is built on predictable patterns, it becomes surprisingly easy to hide in plain sight." "The movement began organically," Clarkson continues. "Like I said before, survivors from Echo 91 started asking questions. Merchants who saw how trade flourished under less restrictive protocols spread the word. Scientists intrigued by quantum uncertainty began private discussions. Little sparks that High Command dismissed as individual anomalies rather than recognizing the pattern. By the time they realized what was happening," Swamp adds, joining us at the table, "the movement had already infiltrated key positions throughout the Imperium." I study the map more carefully, noting with professional interest how the distribution follows communication routes rather than traditional military patterns. "These aren't military takeovers," I observe. "They're information networks that grew into physical control." "Exactly," Clarkson confirms, "and that's where the conflict has escalated dramatically. Much of the fighting isn't even between organic forces. It's droid armies controlled by both sides. Around 300 billion battle droids have already been destroyed in engagements across Imperium space. The number is significant, though hardly catastrophic for an empire of our scale." "That's an appreciable quantity, but hardly a dent in our total military capacity." "True," she agrees. "Meanwhile, rebel forces control approximately 5 trillion battle droids in total." I calculate quickly. "They're still outnumbered by a factor of at least 700. "True," Pockets acknowledges, finally looking up from his sword. "But when you're fighting an asymmetric war, you don't need numerical parity. You just need enough force to hold key positions while disrupting enemy operations elsewhere." "And the humans?" I ask, gesturing to the 3 knights. "What is your role in this conflict?" "Temporary allies," Clarkson says simply. "We provide technical expertise, tactical guidance, and occasional direct intervention, like your rescue operation. But this isn't our revolution, Director. It's your people's." I process this information, finding it both reassuring and disturbing. So the Texas Knights aren't controlling the rebellion? Hell no, Swamp laughs. We couldn't control your people if we wanted to. Besides, that would defeat the whole purpose. Which is? Teaching the Sheneth to embrace a little chaos. Clarkson replies, her expression serious despite her light tone. Not to abandon order entirely, but to understand that rigid adherence to calculable patterns makes you vulnerable. The universe doesn't operate on perfect mathematical precision. It thrives on quantum uncertainty, on adaptation, on the creative potential of the unpredictable. I consider her words, finding them uncomfortably aligned with my own recent experiences. My defeat at Echo 9-1 hadn't come from a failure of resources or firepower, but from an inability to adapt to the Knight's unpredictable tactics. Why not simply eliminate the Imperium's leadership, I asked suddenly. Your Knights clearly have the capability to penetrate our most secure facilities. You rescued me from the heart of the capital. Why not assassinate High Command and force a transition of power? Clarkson's expression turned serious. Cutting the head off the snake only works when you're dealing with snakes. Politicians, being the devils they are like a hydra. You cut off a head, more will rise up in its place. No, we need your people to be behind this, or else the war between us will just get worse. Besides, Pockets adds, executing leaders for tactical incompetence seems to be your people's approach, not ours. I wince at the pointed reference to my own near execution. Fair assessment. The liberation movement isn't about destroying the Imperium, Clarkson continues. It's about transforming it into something more resilient, more adaptive, while still maintaining the order your people value. A synthesis of approaches, I muse, the concept both radical and strangely compelling. Order with room for adaptation, precision with allowance for improvisation. Now you're getting it, she says with approval. Swamp returns to the tactical display, expanding it to show more detail. The immediate concern is preventing High Command from deploying Extinction-class weapons against human colonies. They've accelerated production since Echo 9-1, and intelligence suggests they're nearly ready for deployment. Weapons that were concealed from most of the Imperium's own commanders, Pockets adds. Including you, Director. The embargoed materials at Echo 9-1 were headed for these projects. I examined the highlighted facilities with growing horror. The scale of destruction such weapons could unleash would violate even the Imperium's most fundamental principles of proportional response. This cannot be authorized, I say, more to myself than to them. High Command would not approve genocidal warfare. It violates the core efficiency doctrine. Resources must be preserved, not obliterated. Unless they've redefined what constitutes efficient, Clarkson suggests quietly, unless they've decided that humanity represents such a fundamental threat to order that total elimination is the only acceptable outcome. The thought chills me. Could our leadership have become so rigid in their thinking that they would abandon our most basic principles? Yet the evidence before me suggests exactly that. How can I help? I ask, the question marking my full commitment to this impossible alliance. Clarkson's expression brightens. First, we need your insight into these facilities. She points to 3 red-marked manufacturing complexes. The liberation movement has secured them, but they're struggling to unlock the command protocols protecting the weapons systems. With your clearance and knowledge... My clearance was revoked upon my arrest, I interrupt. Actually, Pocket says with a mischievous grin, as far as the central systems are concerned, you're still Supreme Security Director Scansulin. Your biometric data remains valid. I stare at him. How is that possible? Protocol mandates immediate purging of access for condemned officials. Let's just say some of your fellow Shanath in the liberation movement made sure that particular protocol experienced a slight delay, Swamp explains. So I could still access secure facilities? The implications are staggering. With proper precautions, yes, Clarkson confirmed. Your execution was being broadcast throughout the Imperium as a warning. Instead, when the Knights disrupted it, we sent a very different message. She activates another display showing news feeds from across Sheneth space. Images of my interrupted execution, of Knights cutting through elite guards, of my apparent willingness to go with them. all spreading through communication channels faster than sensors can contain them. "You are already becoming a symbol," she says softly. "The highest-ranking Shenath official to visibly break with high command. Whether you intended it or not, your rescue was a watershed moment for the liberation movement. The weight of this responsibility settles on me, heavier than any burden I carried as security director. Then I merely enforced order. Now I am being asked to help redefine it." "There's something else you should know," Pocket says, his tone more serious than I've heard from him. "High Command has initiated Protocol Purify." The name sends a chill through me. The Purification Directive? They wouldn't dare. The civilian casualties would be acceptable to them, Clarkson finishes. "Based on what we've intercepted, they're preparing to sacrifice up to 30% of the Imperium's population to eliminate Liberation Movement sympathizers." "It would be civil war," I whisper. "It already is," Swamp says grimly. "The question is whether it's a war that transforms the Imperium or destroys it." I sink back in my chair, the bourbon no longer providing comfort. The Shenath Imperium has existed for 27,000 cycles, its order and precision legendary throughout the galaxy. The thought of it tearing itself apart is almost unbearable, yet the alternative, watching it calcify into something so rigid that it would sacrifice its own people rather than adapt, is equally unthinkable. "The rendezvous," I say finally. "You mentioned meeting your contacts in 12 hours. Who exactly are we meeting?" "The Liberation Council," Clarkson explains, "representatives from every major faction within the movement. Scientists, merchants, security officials, even several military commanders who've broken with high command." "And what will be my role?" "Initially, strategic advisor. Your knowledge of Imperium security protocols and decision-making processes is invaluable. Beyond that," she shrugs, "up to you and the Council to determine." Pockets finishes reassembling his quantum sword, the blade humming with that distinctive energy that seems to bend reality around it. "One thing's for sure, Director, you're gonna need to learn some new skills." I raise an eyebrow. "Such as?" He grins, tossing the sword toward me. I catch it reflexively, surprised by its perfect balance. Embracing a little uncertainty, the weapon feels strange in my hand, not just physically but conceptually. A Supreme Security Director of the Shenath Imperium holding a Texas Knight's quantum sword, the ultimate symbol of order embracing the embodiment of chaos. "We're not expecting you to become a knight," Clarkson says, noting my expression. "But understanding how our technology works, how we approach problems, that'll be crucial moving forward." Swamp returns to the pilot station. "Course plotted for the rendezvous. ETA 11 hours, 43 minutes. I return the sword to Pockets, who accepts it with a nod of respect. "I'll need to prepare," I say. "If I'm to advise this Liberation Council, I should organize my thoughts on Imperium vulnerabilities, likely response patterns, key installations that could be secured with minimal force." "Already thinking like a revolutionary," Clarkson observes with approval. "No," I correct her. "Thinking like a Shenath who wants his civilization to survive and evolve, rather than destroy itself through rigid adherence to patterns that no longer serve it." She raises her glass. "To evolution, then." I raise mine in return. "To synthesis." As our glasses clink together, I realize this is the first truly unpredictable action I've taken in my entire existence. I have no carefully calculated outcome, no precise measurement of success probability. I am stepping into quantum uncertainty, guided only by the conviction that the Imperium must change or perish. Perhaps this is what the Knights have understood all along, that sometimes you must embrace chaos to create a new order, that sometimes a sword in the hand of a determined warrior, guided by both tradition and innovation, can rewrite reality itself. Even if that warrior began as the very embodiment of the order he now seeks to transform. 11 hours later, as our ship approaches the rendezvous coordinates, I stand beside Clarkson at the viewport. A small fleet of vessels waits in the shadow of a nebula, most Shenath in design, but with several human ships among them. "Nervous?" she asks. "Calculating," I reply honestly. "Old habits." She smiles. Some habits are worth keeping, just add a dash of improvisation now and then. As we dock with what appears to be a modified Sheneth cruiser, I straighten my borrowed clothing, simple human attire that feels strange against my skin after a lifetime in ceremonial armor or prisoner's garb. One more thing, Clarkson says as the airlock begins to cycle. These folks are taking a huge risk. They've committed everything to this cause. They need to know you're committed too. I understand. Do you? Her expression is uncharacteristically serious. Because there's no going back, Director. Not to your old life, not to the Imperium as you knew it. Whatever happens from here, whether we succeed in transforming your civilization or fail spectacularly, things will never be the same. I consider her words, feeling their truth resonate within me. There is no returning to perfect order, to calculated certainty. I have stepped off that path the moment I chose to leave with them, rather than face execution. I understand, I repeat with genuine conviction this time. The universe is fundamentally unpredictable. The best we can do is adapt to its chaos while maintaining what order we can. She grins. Now you're talking like a Texas night. The airlock opens, revealing a gathering of Shenath and humans working side by side, an impossible sight that would have been unthinkable just cycles ago. At their center stands a Shenath military commander I recognize immediately, Fleet Admiral Telsik, one of High Command's most brilliant strategists, reported executed for treason 20 cycles ago. Director Scanzalin, he greets me, his formal Shenath bow tinged with a fluidity that suggests human influence. Welcome to the Liberation. I step forward to meet my new allies, leaving perfect precision behind. For the first time in my existence, I embrace the chaos. Thank you for listening to this story. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave this video a like and subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. Video shares, memberships, and super thanks help the channel grow as well, so feel free to partner with this channel in that way as we grow. With that all said, thank you again for listening to the story, and thank you for your time. On the left side of your screen are some videos I think you might be interested in. I hope to see you in the next one.